Tell on your sides, kid talk. Think about issues. Talk it out. Learn from others. Share your thoughts. Express your feelings. It's about what's on your mind. Tell on your sides, kid talk.
And welcome to Kid Talk. I'm Carrie Fury, and today's topic is one that, believe it or not, even though the show is called Kid Talk, this is one that is not talked about often because it's just not that easy for parents to talk about with their kids. But here at Kid Talk, we are not afraid to go there and maybe help you, parents, get that conversation started because it is so important. Our subject today is about knowing when to speak up, especially about inappropriate touching. Our hope is that you will watch with your children and again start that dialogue that will empower them and you to have those difficult conversations and help those children who need not suffer in our community. All right, these students are joining us today from and we are very excited and proud that Bird Neck Elementary School was willing to come and tackle this tough subject with us today on Kid Talk. Our guest expert is one who meets this subject head-on every day. Regina Marsh, Cider. She is the director of Spectrum Puppets and Children's Performance Workshops. Thank you to everybody for being here and especially to you guys for watching at home. All right, so let's get started. You know, we're talking about inappropriate touching, and I think we all know what touching means, right? Touching you, touching you, touching you. Right. Okay, so the problem here is the inappropriate part. So when I say inappropriate, what does that mean? Inappropriate. Right? Like, give me an example of something inappropriate.
Something that's like if another person is bullying somebody.
That's inappropriate. Absolutely. If somebody's being a bully. If you're having dinner with your parents or something, maybe you belch. Inappropriate, right? Right? Okay.
Or if like someone's touching you like you don't want to be touched or something.
Because you don't want to.
Or somewhere.
Right. Okay. All right. Someone that you don't want touching you, or someone is touching you somewhere on your body that you don't want to be touched. That's inappropriate, Kyle?
Or like that if someone doesn't really like you that much and they call you names and just really don't like you that much.
Yeah.
They just, by the time they just say no to whatever you say. Like when you want them to, like if you want to play in their game, they just say no.
Yeah.
And then walk away from you.
Yeah, it's calling somebody names, not letting them in your game, those things are definitely inappropriate. And that kind of inappropriate behavior, it's pretty obvious. You know, it's pretty obvious when somebody calls you a name. The kind of inappropriate behavior we're talking about today that can be inappropriate touching, it's kind of sneaky sometimes, isn't it, Regina? It's not always as obvious as someone pushing you down or taking something away from you. It can get a little bit complicated.
Yes, it can.
So if I were to ask you about inappropriate touching, what would you want these children to know?
I think that anytime somebody touches you in places that are covered by your bathing suit or that make you feel uncomfortable, that's inappropriate touching. And, you know, if your mom and dad give you a hug or your grandma or friends hug you or give you a kiss, that's okay. But if they touch you and it makes you feel uncomfortable, that is definitely inappropriate touching.
Mm-hmm. You agree? Good. We're glad to hear that because that's what we want to do this morning is kind of sharpen what Ms. Marsh will tell you is your inner Simon, or who likes Spider-Man? Who likes Spider-Man, right? What did he have? Those spidey senses, right?
He was able to shoot these, I don't know, it's like a white string.
Yeah, he could shoot webs. And we can't teach you how to do that. But we can teach you how to hone your own kind of spider senses, your inner Simon, that lets you know when something's wrong. Because, like Ms. Marsh said, you know, it's okay for your mom and dad to give you a hug, but if somebody that you don't know very well wants to give you a hug, then it can become inappropriate. Now, Aaron, how come? Because if it's okay for your mom and dad to hug you, how come it's not okay for anybody to hug you?
Because maybe you might not feel comfortable with it.
Right. It's not about the hug. It could be a handshake, right? It's not about that. It's about, who's this person coming in your space all of a sudden? And it's not
Or
okay
you
with
might not know them and they just like, hey, can I have a hug or something? And we're like, no, you
Yeah.
can't have a hug.
Is it?
Because I don't know you.
But now, if somebody comes up that you don't know, and they say, "Hey, I'm having a bad day. I'd really like a hug," isn't it bad manners to say no thanks? Isn't that bad manners?
No, it's really not bad manners because it's someone you don't know, and so, I mean, you can say no.
Mm-hmm. Right on. What do you think about that answer, Regina? Isn't it bad manners to say no to somebody who just wants to give us a hug?
It's never bad manners when you're trying to protect yourself and keep yourself safe. So if anybody ever tries to hug you or kiss you or ask you to do something that you don't want to do, it's never bad manners to say no. And it's always the right thing to tell somebody.
All right. Nakia, do you think it would be difficult for a child who is being touched inappropriately or made uncomfortable? Do you think it would be hard for them to tell somebody?
It might be. It depends on, if they don't know the person that's touching them and the person says, don't tell or I'll hurt you, it might be kind of hard because the kid doesn't want to get hurt, but they should tell anyways so they could be protected.
And a lot of times people who say don't tell or I'll hurt you, they're lying. They're liars. I mean, we're not talking about great people here, So always tell and know that it's not your fault. I know that we already talked a little bit about spider senses and Simon, and I know that you wanted to introduce us to Simon today.
Actually, Simon is a little green guy, and he lives in the hearts of children everywhere. And Simon is your innermost feelings and that little voice you have inside that lets you know if something is right or wrong. And you're going to meet Simon in just a moment. But actually, Miss Carey, I think these children already met Simon because we did our program at Birdneck Elementary. And so they already know who Simon is. And all of us have this built-in radar or inner voice where you know if something just doesn't feel right. Isn't that true, children?
Anybody ever have that experience? Where maybe a friend of yours said, let's climb that really, really, really tall tree. Even though we could fall down and break our arms, let's do it anyway. Anybody have an experience where you said, man, I don't know if I want to do what you're doing?
They might not want to do it, and then their friends are like, you're a chicken and everything, so you just do it and then you get in trouble.
Right, but if you think back though, if you're in a situation like that, all of us can probably remember feeling like we shouldn't do it. Before we did it anyway, feeling like maybe we shouldn't, and that's the Simon that Regina's talking about.
Yes.
Have you ever had an experience like that where, it wasn't a voice that came out of your mouth, but a voice inside your guts that said, this is a bad move?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's what we're talking about today, not ignoring that little voice, because we all have it, and it's a gift. And it's super duper strong when we're little kids, but then sometimes when we grow, we pay attention to that little voice less and less and less. And when we come back, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have a special performance from Simon that's all about keeping those senses sharp and keeping yourself safe. All right, more Kid Talk coming up. Special performance, don't go away. Welcome back to Kid Talk, everybody. Our subject today, knowing when to speak up if someone is touching you inappropriately. It could be somebody that you know, that you've known for a long time, that suddenly is making you uncomfortable. We're joined today by these kids from All right, and our guest expert today is Regina Marsh. She's the director of Spectrum Puppets and Children's Performance Workshops. And I know you guys have already met Regina and you've met Simon because her program came to Birdneck Elementary School. Yes. And I know that you visit hundreds of elementary schools, or have visited so many schools to bring this message to kids. So tell me a little bit about the Children's Performance Workshop, and then we'll get to see a little performance from Simon today.
Children's Performance Workshops is a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to improve the quality of life for children everywhere, and especially through a program we do called Simon Says Just Tell, and we're all about preventing child abuse and bullying. So we go into the schools with a show called Simon Says Just Tell, and it takes the children through a day in the life of two kids, Lori and Doug, who are having some difficult situations like how to answer the phone appropriately, and I think their babysitter is on a chat room on the computer, which is not appropriate. And also, Mom is ready to get married to somebody who Lori is not happy with because he likes to play secret games with her, and we know that those secret games are not right. But Simon shows up always just in time to let the children know what's right and what's wrong.
All right, now it is time for a very special performance here on Kid Talk.
Hey, this is my body, that is your body, leave my body alone. Hey, this is my body, that is your body, leave my body alone. It may be right for you, but it's wrong for me. Get out of my space, you can let me be. 'Cause hey, this is my body, that is your body, leave my body alone. Hey, this is my body, that is your body, leave my body alone. Keep your hands to yourself. I tell you one more time, you take care of yours, and I'll take care of mine. 'Cause hey, this is my body, that is your body, leave my body alone. Hey, this is my body, that is your body, leave my body alone. I don't keep secrets, I know that's just not right. And what you're asking me is making me uptight. So back off now, you heard what I said. Find someone your own age, 'cause I'm still a kid. Hey, this is my body, that is your body, leave my body alone. Hey, this is my body, that is your body, leave my body alone. Hey, this is my body, that is your body, leave my body alone.
All right, give yourselves a round of applause. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. And you know, the mission of Children's Performance Workshop is so important, but obviously, Regina, Marsh, Cider, a very talented puppeteer. You make these marionettes as well. So you're giving your talent as an artist to this cause to protect children out there. You know, we talked a little bit in the beginning about inappropriate touching. And we've had some stories in the news recently where children were approached by somebody they didn't know who said, "Can you guys come help me find my puppy?" Is it appropriate for a grown-up to ask a child for help? Joshua?
No, because if they do, the kid would probably wonder if they were being serious or not.
Absolutely. And that wondering, hey, is this guy serious? What's he's really up to? Who is that talking?
Well, Simon.
Yeah, that's your Simon, right? That's your inner Simon, that inner voice that's telling you, your instinct that's telling you, I don't know what this person's about. Because if he really needed help getting his dog, he probably would ask someone with a car, right? Right, not a kid. Okay, hands up over here. What did you guys want to say?
I would say it's, well, like you don't know if the person is serious or not, so I would have said no.
Yeah, yeah. The stranger situation, you know, all of our parents, I know my parents talk to me and I've talked to my kids about stranger danger, somebody that you don't know, approaching you, trying to take you somewhere, trying to find out where you live, trying to get that information. Those are pretty straightforward situations. But sometimes, like we talked about before, it's complicated. Somebody you do know and have trusted in the past may all of a sudden make you uncomfortable. So again, Regina, what should kids do if they're in a situation like that, where maybe it's an uncle or an aunt or a neighbor or sometimes even their own mom and dad? Because I know statistically most kids are abused by people they know.
Most children are abused by people that they know, and that makes it even more frightening to tell, because you don't want anybody to get into trouble. But you have to think first about yourself and your own safety. And if the person you tell doesn't believe you, tell somebody else. And keep on telling until somebody not only believes you, but supports you and does something about it. Very important.
You know, we urge parents to stay in the room and watch Kid Talk this morning, and hopefully you are. So what did you want to say to those parents about either what the statistics or your research or experience has shown about whether kids make these stories up, because a lot of times parents or caregivers think these children are looking for attention and they're making this up.
I think parents should always believe what their children say, and there are ways of finding out if what they're saying has validity or not. But I think you always need to listen to your children and do something about it and check it out, always.
All right. Anybody else have questions for Ms. Marsh or something else that they wanted to say?
If they came up to you, you would say no and run away. And like if you have your cell phone on you, you should dial 911 and say this man or this woman said come in my car or come with me because I lost my puppy and I want to know where you live and are you lost or something.
Right, absolutely. And of course, you know, these kinds of people, we call them predators, right? Because they know that children are wonderful people. Children are the most wonderful human beings there are, and you're going to want to help, and you're going to want to help the person and the dog, and that's why they come ask you. Edward?
I have a question for Miss Regina. Like, what if this goes back to, like, your uncle or aunt being mean to you, but your parents are also kind of just like your uncle and aunt?
It's tough for kids that are in these situations where it's a family member and they don't want to rock the whole family tree.
That's really a good question. And, you know, you always have to tell. And if you can't tell your parents or you can't tell someone in your family, you have your school teacher and you have your school counselor, your principal, maybe even a friend's parents. There's always somebody that you can tell. So it's important that if you're bothered by something, the most important thing is to tell somebody about it.
Who's
Good question.
Who's your counselor at Bird Neck Elementary School?
Mr. James.
Mr. James. Okay, everybody knows his name. Well, guess what? Mr. James knows exactly what to do. He knows exactly what to do. So you don't even have to figure out, what do I do about this? You just tell Mr. James because he already knows, and he'll take it from there. He'll take care of you. And those people in your lives, you know, your pastors, your counselors, your coaches, if you can't talk to your parents, if they're not the ones making kids uncomfortable out there, most of the time these are people who will take care of you, and they know what to do. They know what to do. So you just need to get the guts, the courage to listen to Simon and Tell, and then the grown-ups will take it, okay? All right. All right, we're having a great conversation here. We do have to take another break, though. We want to remind you, you can catch Kid Talk online anytime. Just log on to WAVY.com, click the On-Air tab to find us. You can watch full episodes, including this one right there. So check it out. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Kid Talk, everybody. Our subject today, knowing when to speak up. We hope parents are watching with their children today because we're helping get that difficult conversation started about how to talk to your kids about inappropriate touching and what they should do if it is happening to them. These students are joining us today from
Bird Neck Elementary.
All right, they recently got to have our special guest expert today, Ms. Regina Marsh, come into their school and do a special performance all about this. She is the director of Spectrum Puppets and the Children's Performance Workshop, and goes into schools and other community centers all the time, spreading the message through the puppets, through Simon and her stories and performances and the songs about how kids can stand up for themselves if somebody is not treating them appropriately. Now, before we went to our last commercial, we were brainstorming a little bit, right? About all the people in our lives that perhaps we could go to for help. Okay, so could you think of anybody, Destiny, that you could talk to if something like this were happening to you?
I could talk to my mom and my dad because they trust me a lot.
Yep, to your mom and your dad. Okay, now what if, let's see who else we haven't heard from yet today. What if it wasn't maybe you, but what if a friend of yours came up to you and said, you know, Brianna, I just really want to talk to you. You know, I have this uncle, and every time he comes over for holidays and stuff, you know, he touches me inappropriately, but I don't want to tell my mom or dad. And he told me that he would hurt me if I told, and she's telling you this. What do you think you can do?
I would just tell my mom in case.
You would tell your mom, okay? All right, and that's a good plan, isn't it, Regina? You shouldn't keep secrets for yourself. What about for somebody else?
I think if you have a friend that confides in you, you need to help your friend also, because again, the most important thing is that you're safe. That's the most important thing.
And you could help keep your friends safe. So, you know, what if initially your friend says, oh my gosh, I told you not to tell, and now I'm not going to be your friend anymore? How do you deal with that?
Well, I think it's probably better not to be a friend, but know that your friend is being taken care of. And once your friend gets the help that he or she needs, I bet you then she'll realize how wonderful it was that you wanted to help her and supported her.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing, but you know, if you have those adults in your life that you can go to for help, it doesn't have to be. Jessica, do you have any questions for Miss Marsh, Cider? Or anything that you wanted to say, or some advice? What advice would you give kids if somebody out there is watching our show today, right now, and they're saying, man, that stuff they're talking about, that's happening to me, but they're feeling afraid? What would you tell them?
That they shouldn't be afraid to tell people that something's happening to them.
Why not?
Because you should tell somebody, because it could keep happening, something can get worse.
That's right, these things get worse, and isn't that also true, Regina, that, you know, the kinds of people who do this, they tend to do it as long as they can get away with it.
Yes, and the other thing too is that, like in the show, Martin, who's about to marry the children's mother, he brings presents to little Doug and really gets to be his friend and makes himself feel like he can be trusted, but you can't be taken in by that. You always have to tell. So it's important. And I know, you remember Lori? She felt bad about saying something because she didn't want her mom to be unhappy, and she didn't want her mom's feelings to get hurt, but her feelings were more important, and Mom did listen to her, and it had a good outcome, didn't it?
Yes. Sometimes when you're kids, you feel like, well, I'm not that important. But you guys are so important. And it's important to know what is your worry and what is a grown-up worry. And what happens to the person who's touching you after you tell, that's a grown-up worry. That's a grown-up worry. You just have to worry about taking care of yourself and making it stop and giving that problem over to a grown-up who can help you. And whether that person's going to go to jail or whether you're ever going to see them again, that's a grown-up worry. All right, we can't stress enough how important it is to come forward. What about you, Emma? Any advice for kids out there who are listening to our show today and they're thinking, oh boy, that's happening to me?
Well, they shouldn't be too afraid to tell their, like, someone they really trust, because if they don't, it might get worse, and if they tell someone, that they might be able to help them.
They might be able to help them. Okay, and like Ms. Marsh said, if the first person you go to doesn't seem like they're really jumping to help you, move along to somebody else who will, because somebody else will. Erin, when somebody is being targeted either by a bully or a sexual predator, somebody who's touching them inappropriately, do you think it's because of anything that the child did? What do you think's going on there?
I think it's just because the other person's maybe jealous of the other person because they like them really much. They're jealous that they may be better at them, but they don't want to make it so other people can notice.
Yeah, we see that a lot of times when kids bully other kids. Something's going on with the bully, right? Okay. And what about grown-ups who touch kids inappropriately? Is that the child's issue, Michaela?
No. It's really the grown-up. It's probably...
That's the grown-up's problem, right? Right? Let's ask that question again and let's all answer it. Is it ever a child's fault when they're abused? No. No. Let's say it again. Is it ever the kid's fault? No. No. It's not your fault. All right, we have to take another break. When we come back, we're going to wrap things up here with the Children's Performance Workshop and these great kids from Bird Neck Elementary. Oh my gosh, our Kid Talk is almost over. We want to thank everybody for being here, especially these kids from Bird Neck Elementary. All right, all you guys watching at home, thank you for being here today. And our guest expert, Regina Marsh, the director of Spectrum Puppets and the Children's Performance Workshops. I know that you've got a very special program coming up, and we want to let you tell folks about it.
April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month, and on April 30th, the Noblemen present My Big Day, a fabulous day for children with singing and marionette shows and workshops and all kinds of wonderful things for kids. Come on out. It's at the Convention Center, April 30th, from 11 o'clock till 4. So we want you to come out, and all the proceeds from that day go to children's performance workshops so that we can continue going into elementary schools and helping teach you children how to recognize, prevent, and disclose abuse and bullying.
And these programs get results. Hundreds of children have come forward. People have been prosecuted. The program really
We've put
works.
over 150 child molesters in prison, and thousands of cases of abuse have been prevented. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks again for watching Kid Talk today. Have a fantastic week, and don't forget, you can check out this episode and others at WAVY.com. If you would like more information about Spectrum Puppets, visit SpectrumPuppets.com or StopAbuse.com. And don't forget, April 30th, it could be your big day at the Virginia Beach Convention Center to raise awareness against bullying and child abuse and have fun in the name of a great cause. Be safe, everybody, and if something's going on, tell somebody. All right, anybody else have anything else? You guys want to sing the song again?
Let's go. Hey, this is my body, that is your body, leave my body alone. Hey, this is my body, that is your body, leave my body alone.